most people, they are not a thing, and in fact, they are like, if they were a thing, they would be like demonized and feared, and it would be like this horrible, dramatic, like mean thing to do if it were to be done. And I feel like it only actually happens in the most dire of circumstances. Like, I feel like a real friend breakup only happens if it's like a huge dramatic falling out where there's like a huge drama thing. And what I'm proposing today is that it should be a thing. Like, it should be an accepted part of life, and it should be an accepted behavior, just like romantic breakups. I believe that we should have friend breakups as well. So I have a couple notes on the side because there's like a couple different areas that I want to remember to discuss with this. However, this is not scripted, and I didn't like write this out beforehand, so I figured that would make it a better ramble, because it's like truly just me rambling. But apologies in advance if I like repeat myself at all, or I don't know, some of the thoughts might be a little jumbled and out of order. A little jumbled, but it is just going to be a stream of consciousness. So, first and foremost, friend breakups should be a thing that is more widely practiced and accepted because it's a relationship. Like, first and foremost, if we're just like thinking about it logically and just like thinking about it like it is two people coming together and deciding that they want to share their lives together. Yes, it doesn't mean romantically. You're not like being intimate and you're not like having that intimacy, but there's still a lot of intimacy and vulnerability that goes into friendships. Like, it is two people deciding that they want to do life together as friends. They want to talk, they want to hang out, they want to be vulnerable, they want to share their hopes and dreams, they want to go do stuff together, they want to spend quality time, tell each other secrets. Like, it is a full relationship. So when it's not working anymore, like whether that's between both people or one person feeling that way, I just feel like it should end. Like, it should be allowed to end. Just because it's not romantic doesn't mean that it shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be able to break up with someone. And that's what sucks, is that the friend breakups very rarely happen. So what ends up happening instead is one person ghosting the other, or acting weird, or pushing them away, or it just like gets hurtful and weird instead of just like just breaking it off. But that's actually a different part of my notes, so I'll save that for later. But when you think about it, like, it is a relationship. It's a two-way street. You're giving yourself to that person. Like, you're texting them, you're FaceTiming them, you're making plans with them, you're telling them about your life, you're opening up about your childhood, you're making new memories, you're going on trips, you're spending your weekends with them, you're like laughing, you're crying, like you do all the same stuff that you do in a romantic relationship, except be intimate. Like, that's the only difference. Of course, also the level of closeness is oftentimes more intense with a romantic partner because of the intimacy piece, because that like adds that layer of closeness. But honestly, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. There have been friendships in my life that are closer and more intimate than even my romantic relationships. Probably not, actually, for sure not anymore, because now with my husband, I feel like I have a very deep, fulfilling relationship with him, and we are like best friends and like intimate partners. So that doesn't apply anymore, but in the past, I was closer with my girlfriends than portion, I guess, that I have written in my notes, which is we are all always evolving and changing. And it's just like, it blows my mind when I think about in romantic relationships, that's accepted. Like, one person changes, one person evolves, or you're just not vibing anymore, and one person or both people decide to break it off, and they decide, like, we're not vibing, this part of this relationship is over, so let's move on with life. And I feel like the same thing happens with friendships, but we're not allowed to actually have like formal breakups, so it's just weird. Like, we are all evolving and changing, and this applies to newer friends, but this definitely applies to like older friends, or like maybe childhood friends, or friends that you've had for a few years. Like, we are all changing so much every day and every week, every month, every year. And sometimes that means you end up growing apart from your friends. Your interests change, maybe your careers change, your like hobbies change, the way you look at the world changes, maybe your political outlook changes, or just the way you view humanity and life changes. Maybe your spirituality or your religion changes. Sometimes your mannerisms and your personality can change for whatever reason. Maybe you're going through a hard time, or maybe you're trying to heal and you're like on a self-healing journey, and you're deciding you want to be more of yourself, or whatever the like reasoning is. People change. So when you really think about it that way, like, when we evolve and change and maybe grow apart from someone else, sometimes, like, I just wish we were allowed to, like, and I know obviously that I could do this, but I just mean like socially acceptable. Like, I wish this was a practice, a normal practice in friendships. Like, I just think it's so wild how even when we've changed and grown apart and we have nothing in common anymore, and obviously it's okay to have nothing in common if you still love the person and you still want the friendship, it still can work. Like, you could be opposites and still be friends, but I'm talking about instances where one or both of you changes and one or both of you isn't enjoying the friendship anymore. Like, you should be able to like end it and like break up with them, or even like go on a break and be like, you know, like, I love you and I wish you the best in life, but right now our friendship just like isn't serving me. It's not vibing with my life. Like, I'm not enjoying it. I think we should like take a break, or like, I think for now we should just kind of like move on and put our energy elsewhere, and like maybe in the future you rekindle, just like romantic relationships. Like, maybe there's a time in life where it makes sense again, but it's so shitty, and it sucks to me that we have to like hold on to these friendships that aren't serving us anymore. And like I said, this could be someone who maybe you've just met, and then you like start to hang out and you realize, oh no, we're actually not compatible. Or maybe you've known someone for a few years, and over those few years you realize, like, oh no, I've changed a lot, or they've changed a lot, and like, I don't want to be friends anymore. Or it's like a childhood situation, or like a high school friend situation where you're like, well shit, like, I've known this person, I've been friends with this person forever, but like, I don't really enjoy this friendship anymore. But instead of like being able to just break up and be honest about it, we like hang on to these friendships, and then either one or both people end up suffering because of it. Like, the one person who's in it might be unhappy because they're like, I wish I could get out of this friendship, and then the other person might feel unhappy because they can feel the distance, and they're like, what did I do wrong? Why are they being distant? Like, what's going on? So it just is uncomfortable and unhealthy for both parties, when instead I wish we could just say, like, listen, there's no bad feelings, there's no bad blood, but I just feel like for now I want to move on from our friendship so much, we should be able to honor our evolutions and our changes. And like, also, I believe in like the seasons of life. Like, there are different seasons of life, and sometimes someone, like a friend, is meant for you in a certain season of life, but then you move on and you move and you enter a new season of life, and maybe they're just not meant to be in that season of life for you. And I believe that that's okay. Like, I believe that there is like, the way that life works, like, not every single person you ever meet or not every person you ever love is meant to be in your close inner circle for your entire life. That's crazy. Like, that's so long. There needs to be room for new people and other people that are meant for you to come in and out of your life. And I just feel like it's a disservice to everyone that we don't honor that, and we don't like honor our seasons of life, and instead we just like hang on to friendships that aren't good for us or aren't like enriching our lives. Another like part of this that I have written in my note that I think is important for this like topic and like plays into it a lot is the unrealistic expectations that technology slash phones slash social media put on us now. And it is different from like pre-cell phones, pre-social media. So like early to mid 2000s to now, I feel like there's so much more pressure to like keep in touch with every single friend that you've ever had or every single friend you have. And it's like, okay, so I'm supposed to text, FaceTime call, DM with, reply to their stories, Snapchat, talk on Instagram. Like, I'm supposed to do that with every single friend every single day. And then if you don't answer, you're a jerk and you're a bad friend because you're not answering. And it's like, okay, well, for some people, whether you have one friend, two friends, 5 friends, 20 friends, it's hard sometimes to keep up with the constant communication of the phones and like social media and cell phones. However, like, you don't have an excuse, because if you're on your phone doing other stuff, if you're scrolling, if you're on social media, if you're watching YouTube, like, technically you're on your phone, so why can't you answer your friends? So sometimes I'm like, I just can't do it right now. Like, I don't have the like mental capacity to like genuinely reply to a text message or like reply to a bunch of like DMs. When I think about like life before, because I was born in the 90s, so I've pretty much grown up with all of it. Like, when I was way younger, it wasn't around as much, like the smartphones. Like, obviously we had flip phones and we had like Envies and like the little glides and those kinds of phones. So like, I always had texting pretty much starting at like age 13. I would say I had texting, but it was like on the old phone, so it wasn't the same. But that was when like we had a desktop computer and you would have to come home and like ask your parents to go on it, and you would like play computer games, and I had like a DS. But I didn't have like social media until high school, well, until middle school. Anyways, my point being is that I don't know what it was like before, but when I imagine it, I'm like, oh my god, what a relief. Like, that's what I think when I think of communication with friends before like the 2000s. I'm like, what a relief. You didn't have this expectation that you have to be constantly talking to people and answering people, because it was just like, yeah, you had your landlines and you could call each other's landlines and like catch up over the phone occasionally. And I'm like, to me, and then the people who you lived by, you would see all the time. To me, that makes more sense logically. Like, that to me feels more in line with human nature, to be like, okay, I have my community and I close in proximity environment, and those are the people I see all the time, and those are the friends that I'm really close with. Then I have friends that live away from me, and so once a month or once every few months we talk on the phone and we catch up, and it's like, okay, cool, that's awesome, and then no one's upset, no one's mad. But now it's like I have like friends that live in different states. I have like siblings and family members who are spread all out, and it's just like, how am I supposed to keep up with all of these people, including the people I live by, including like, I don't know, like I don't always want to be on my phone talking and like trying to keep up friendships. So I just feel like it went from like pre-2000s or whatever, like it went from like you invest in the friendships in person and like when you see them, and then also like you could talk on the phone, and like over the landline phone you could like invest in the friendship that way, or you could like write letters. But now it's like you have to be liking their shit, commenting on their stuff, DMing them, sending them funny TikToks or reels, texting them, sending voice memos, FaceTiming, talking on the phone. Like there's so much stuff that is like required to be a good friend now. Whereas before there was just so much less like expectation and pressure of what you have to put into friendships. So my point in like saying that is that I feel like there's just such a higher like expectation for frequency and depth of communication with friends. It can be really hard to keep up with that if there's too many, or it can be hard to like put energy into that if you're not like obsessed with the person. Like if it's just a friend that you're like, oh yeah, I like you, but I don't want to be talking to you 24/7. Nowadays, if you don't talk to them, then they're gonna know that you don't really like them, or they're gonna think you're mad. It just like adds this weird dynamic to it, and I'm like, that sucks. Like, why can't we just be honest? Like, why do we have to be talking to so many people at such a deep depth all the time, like so frequently? I just wish we could all be honest with ourselves and with friends about like wanting to be friends or not. Like, if it's worth that much time and energy, because there's so much required now, or if you could just have an understanding of like, we talk every 4 months and that's enough. I just wish that could be a thing. And then if you realize that you can't put into it what the other person wants, then I wish you could just break up with them. Like, I wish you could. So that kind of brings me to like, I guess the last point that I have written in my notes, which is what happens when we don't have friend breakups. And this is where I'm like, this is such a shame. This is a disservice to everyone. So when we don't have friend breakups, what ends up happening is hurt feelings and awkwardness. Hurt feelings and awkwardness for everyone involved. So for the person who isn't vibing anymore, or maybe doesn't want to be like friends, or just can't be the level of friends that the other person wants, it is hurtful and it's awkward, because maybe it's just kind of a waste of your time, because you're like, I don't want to be having to answer this person's texts all the time when they don't enrich my life. And it's also awkward because you're like, okay, like what am I supposed to do here? Like they're not really getting the hint that I'm not vibing. And so it's like awkward and uncomfortable. But then also it's just like, then you can start to feel bad about yourself, because you're like, well, I don't want to be mean, I don't want to be a bad person, but the reality is I'm not vibing with this person. So it's very awkward and uncomfortable for the person having those feelings. But then of course it's so hurtful for the person on the other end, because then they're like, maybe they're sensing that the other person is like pulling away or not giving 100%. So maybe they're like, wow, why is she such a bad friend to me? Like, she's such a bad friend. She never talks to me. I can't count on her. She doesn't listen. Like, it can make you feel like that other person person is being a bad friend, or if you are like kind of starting to pick up on it, it's like, what did I do wrong? Why don't they like me? Why is she being distant? And it's like really, really hurtful. And it's also like makes you feel self-conscious, like, am I like dumb? Am I not cool? Like, why don't they like me? Why don't they want to hang out? Why are they ignoring me? Why do they leave me out? So it's just like really, really hurtful for everyone involved. And I just wish that instead of doing that, actually, or it's like this unresolved, awkward, like gray area of a friendship. Like, have you ever had that? Because I know I have, where maybe it's a friend you've had for a long time or a couple years, and it's kind of like all of a sudden both people realize that they like don't really talk anymore, and it's like this awkward, unresolved, like nothing bad happened, we didn't like break up, but we barely talk anymore, and like maybe, and there's always like saltiness associated with it, like one person's always like salty, like, yeah, we don't talk anymore, or like she was too busy for me. But then like sometimes you'll catch up and sometimes you'll talk, and it's kind of this like weird, like it's just like unresolved. Like, why can't we just have friend breakups and like call it what it is, speak our truths, and break up with each other? Like, I just really wish that it was a thing, and it really blows my mind when I start to deeply think about it and how it's not a thing. I'm like, why are we doing this to each other? Why are we like hanging on and like being in denial or pretending like everything's fine, or like ghosting each other? Why can't we just break up with each other? And it's just, it's really a shame, but it's just not a thing to like break up with friends, and it should be. And I wish that friend breakups were a thing. I think they should be. I wish that we could change that culturally. We should treat them as relationships because that's what they are. We should be allowed to end them, and there should be friend breakups. The end. I am very curious to hear what you think about the video and the rant and the ramble. If you agree, if you disagree, any thoughts or commentary on the video, I totally welcome. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to my little whisper ramble. I really appreciate you coming and watching my videos, and I hope that you have a great day.